Well, it's good to be back. Finally, after a long week off, a good week off. You know how vacations go. It's always nice to get that time off. It always seems like it goes fast, and then by the time it's over, you're ready to get back into the regular routine of things, the regular rhythm of things. Hopefully, you enjoyed the interviews last week. You checked them out. 5 days of interviews. 4 of them basketball. No, not 5 days of interview. 4 days of interviews, and then we had the mailbag on Friday. We had Who do we have? We had Damian Dunn, we had Cam Corrin, we had Amsal Delilich, and we had Gilbert Brown. Interviews with all those guys. Hopefully you checked them out last week. It was a lot of fun doing those interviews. I think you probably enjoyed them. If you didn't, or if you didn't get a chance, not if you didn't enjoy them, but if you didn't get a chance to check out the interviews, go back and check them out. They're right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. They're all good interviews, and hopefully you got a chance to look at those. And if you didn't, you definitely should. And then Friday we had our mailbag edition. We answered one question: what are Panaruzzi's top 5 recruiting classes? And I thought that was a pretty interesting conversation. I enjoyed digging into that, and hopefully you enjoyed checking it out. So go into all those things. Go check those out. Hopefully you already did, and if you didn't, you should. And now it's time for a new week. So what did I miss while I was gone? I was gone for a whole week. Something had to have happened, right? Yeah. I can't say a lot of things happened, but things happened. There were commitments, 2 commitments. We thought there'd be 1. There was actually 2. There was some news on the professional sports front. There was a lot of stuff for Pitt fans to talk about last week, and that means there's a lot of stuff for us to talk about this week. Here, getting it started on the Monday edition of the Morning Pitt, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, we're back at it on a Monday, back at it after a week off. Glad you could, it's always, Mondays are always, it's the day after the weekend, right? So we're back at it on a Monday. This one feels like it was an extended weekend, although you certainly had plenty of Morning Pitt content last week to keep you busy. You know the deal. You know what we always ask you to do. Like this video and subscribe. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com so you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. And, of course, check out the website, Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. So recruiting news last week. A couple of commitments. Let's start with the one we expected, the one we knew about, the one we anticipated happening, and the one that ultimately did happen. And then we'll get into the one that was a little bit of a surprise. The one we expected was Jordan Fields, offensive lineman from Houston, Texas, a 3-star prospect. Rates, where is he? Is a 5.5 on the Rivals.com rating scale. He had other power conference offers: Houston, Kansas, and Maryland. Pitt, Houston, and Kansas were his top 3 schools. Actually, he also took an official visit to Toledo, but then he went to Pitt, and he went to Houston, he went to Kansas, and those were his really his top 3 options there as a 6'5", 265-pound line prospect. And he committed to Pitt. And, this is interesting on a lot of levels. And I'll tell you where I start with this. Before we get into Fields as a player and how he fits with Pitt, I think it's interesting that Jordan Fields took his official visit to Pitt and then went on 2 more visits after that and ended up committing to the Panthers. More often than not, the last visit has the advantage. The last visit leaves that lasting impression. It's the most recent memory in their minds. And especially once you start getting up to taking 3, 4 official visits, that 4th official visit can start to fade the memory of those first 1 or 2 a little bit. You start getting, wait, which school was it where I did this? Which one did I do that? But that school that you visited most recently, that's still pretty fresh in your mind. Those memories are pretty clear, and chances are you're going to have the most positive impression from that most recent official visit. And so for Pitt to hold on like this, to be the 2nd official visit, and the first out of Fields' top 3 schools, Pitt, Houston, and Kansas, the first of those 3 schools to host him, and then to make a strong enough impression that it lasted throughout the other 2 official visits, I think is pretty notable, because you don't always see that. You don't always see that. Sometimes you do. It's not completely unheard of, but you don't always see it kind of lasting like that, and I think it speaks to how strongly Fields felt about Pitt. Randy Bates, the area recruiter for Jordan Fields in Houston, Texas. Jeremy Darvaux, obviously involved as the offensive line coach. They were the main points of contact here for Jordan Fields. They offered him in, I believe, February. Got him up for the official visit in June, maybe the first weekend of June. I forget which week he came in, but it was early. It was one, first or second visit weekend, and ultimately landed him. And Fields, of course, the fourth offensive line prospect to commit to Pitt in the class of 2025. We've been saying all along the Panthers wanted to take 2 tackle prospects in this class and 2 guard prospects in this class. They got their guards with Shep Turk and Torian Chester, and then got their tackle. Their first tackle was Akram El-Nagmi, the Englishman who came in for an official visit and sort of surprised us with his presence, and then surprised us with his commitment. And then they wanted that second tackle, and the tackle ended up being Fields. And I think Fields was one of the priority targets for the staff. He was one of the guys they wanted to fill that tackle spot with. They didn't really bring in too many other tackles beyond El-Nagmi and Fields. And so if they had missed on Fields, it would be sort of going back to the drawing board a little bit. But now they don't have to do that. They got the guy they wanted. And quite frankly, he might be the most... I don't know. I don't want to say he's the best O-line prospect in this class. I think Shep Turk can be pretty good. And I don't necessarily want to say that Fields is the most developed offensive line prospect in this class because, again, I think Shep Turk is really good at Thomas Jefferson. But I think Fields makes this class better by quite a bit. And again, not to necessarily say he's the number one O-lineman in this class, but I do think the class improved considerably with Jordan Fields jumping in. Again, a 6'5", 265-pound tackle prospect. And that probably finishes the offensive line class for Pitt's 2025 recruiting. I think they wanted 4 offensive linemen. They got 4 offensive linemen. They took a pretty big group last year they get 5 offensive linemen in last year's recruiting class. So they took a pretty big group in 2024. I forget what they took in 23. I'm going to bring that up real quick for the recruiting numbers there. There they took 3 guys, Ryan Coretta, Ty Ray, and BJ Williams. In the 2023 class, took 5 of the current incoming freshmen, and then 4 more in the 2025 class. That should pretty much solidify things for now, numbers-wise at least. Obviously, if there's a can't-miss prospect, and no matter what guy, or you end up with an extra spot, and there's a guy whose potential you really like, then you would take him. But otherwise, I think the staff is pretty content to stand pat with 4 offensive linemen in this class. How does the class look? I think El-Nagmi is all potential, a former rugby player, limited experience in playing American football. It's a bit of a lottery ticket right there. I think Shep Turk looks like a pretty good prospect, and I think he's going to keep getting better. Torian Chester seems okay. Jordan Fields, I think, looks pretty good, but possibly more than any other position. Perhaps more than any other position, and you could probably make a case for quarterback, but probably more than any other position, I think the offensive line is just really, really difficult to project. I could look back at last year's class and, Giovanni Cooley and Adham Abaraya and Mason Lindsay and Caleb Holmes and Moritz Schmoranzer. And okay. I think Caleb Holmes is really, really good. One of the best prospects they've signed. You know what I mean? As a recruit coming out of high school, I think he's right up there with Ryan Baer in terms of the caliber player that he is, the caliber prospect that he looks to be. But I have no idea what that class is actually going to be like. I like a few of those guys, but who knows? You go to the 2023 class, all right, BJ Williams has played. You know what I mean? So I think you start to feel pretty good about him, but no idea about Ty Ray or Ryan Coretta. The 2022 class was Ryan Baer and, let me bring it up, who else was in that class? Isaiah Montgomery. And so you have limited numbers there. You only have 2 guys, but one of them is already a starter. You don't know what Montgomery is going to become. 2021 class, let's roll here of Terrence Moore, Terrence Enos, Trey Anderson, and Kyle Fugetti. So, and ultimately Dorian Ford moved to that side of the ball, but we'll set him aside. Fugetti and Anderson are gone. Fugetti never even made it. Anderson transferred this past offseason. Terrence Moore is in the starting lineup. Terrence Enos will be a 2-deep guy. And so my point in sort of recapping the last 4 offensive line classes is that it's really tough to project. I think if you looked at this 2000 21 class, Terrence Moore, Terrence Enos, Trey Anderson, Kyle Fugetti. I'm not sure who you would be most excited about out of that group. I actually think there was a lot of hype for Terrence Moore. I think there was a lot of hype for Terrence Enos. So maybe the fact that those two guys are on the team means that the hype and the potential played out. 2022, there was certainly a lot of hype and excitement about Ryan Baer, and that has come to fruition. He's in the starting lineup in his second season. He'll be a starter again this year as a third-year player. We'll see about Isaiah Montgomery. I think he'll be a backup tackle, but I'm not sure that he'll get on the field. 2023 class, so this is an example. I mean, Ryan Coretta, Tyree, and B.J. Williams. If Williams hadn't earned his way onto the field as a starter last year, we wouldn't really know what to make of that offensive line class at all at this point, because they've only been on campus for 1 year. And it's probably the way we're going to look at this 2024 class next year. We're going to be like, well, I don't really know, because chances are, if Pitt has any kind of luck, none of those guys are going to sniff the field this season. And so it's hard to project these classes. And I don't know if we sat back and looked at B.J. Williams and said that guy's going to start as a freshman. That guy's going to be penciled in as a starter his sophomore year. I don't know if we looked at B.J. Williams that way. And so it's tough to project with the offensive line. You can look at the offer sheets, and that's always valuable, and maybe doesn't necessarily speak well of Pitt's 2025 recruiting class along the offensive line. But I mean, that's one way to gauge it. You can look at ratings. You can look at the film and, fancy yourself an evaluator. That's fine. Don't really know what to make out of the group. But I think there's some potential in there that you can kind of see. I think Fields is a pretty nice addition. And like I say, I like the potential with Shep Turk. And we'll see beyond that. Before Fields announced on Friday, though, there was a different commitment, and it came at midweek, and it was from a long snapper, Henry Searcy, from Tallahassee, Florida. I think he's from Tallahassee. Is that where he's from? Yeah, Tallahassee, Florida. Announced his commitment to Pitt. I think it was on Wednesday, and this was not on my radar. Even if Henry Searcy had been on my radar as a potential long snapper target for Pitt, he would not have been on my radar because he committed to Syracuse like a week ago. And so he was not on my radar to begin with, and he wouldn't have been, he would have been even further off my radar if I'd known about him and saw that he committed to Syracuse. And yet, without visiting Pitt, for reasons that I'm still not really sure about, I read his interview and saw what he talked about Pitt. He decided to flip his commitment from one ACC school to another ACC school. And now he's coming to Pitt. I think he'll initially come as a walk-on, a long snapper with the potential possibility of getting a scholarship in his second year. They've got Nile Upa, the transfer from UConn, who will hold down the long snapper job this year. And then, replacing Byron Floyd, who transferred to Buffalo. But Nile will be the long snapper this year, and then they'll need someone after that. And so I think the idea with Searcy is that he's going to redshirt for a year and pay his own way, and then go on scholarship in 2025, be the full-time starting long snapper. And unless he follows the path of the guy from last year, Byron Floyd, then he'll probably stick around for 4 years as a scholarship option. Now, scholarship walk-on, these distinctions are going to get a little bit more interesting over the next couple of years as the NCAA changes the rules and basically says you can put everybody on scholarship, in which case there won't be many walk-ons at all anymore. But I think initially, at least, this long snapper Henry Searcy is coming in to be a walk-on with the promise of a scholarship down the road. And I think it's not the first time we've seen Pitt do this coaching staff in particular, but I think other Pitt staffs have done it, of bringing in a walk-on specialist, whether it's a punter, kicker, or snapper, or whatever, bring them in as a walk-on, and then, with sort of an understanding that they'll go on scholarship the next year if and when they win the job. And, I think that has happened a couple of times that I can think of, Byron Floyd being the most recent. But that's happened a couple of times that I recall. Maybe one of the kickers, Ben Sauls. No, I don't know if it was Sauls. Maybe a punter or somebody. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But they came in on as a walk-on, and with the understanding they were going to go on scholarship once they got the starting job. And so that's probably seems like that'll be the case with Henry Cersei. Look, it's hard to get all riled up about a long snapper. It's hard to offer a lot of analysis on a long snapper. Does he snap the ball? Does it get to the place where it's supposed to be? And does it get there quickly? Is it at the right spot? If it is, hoorah, right? And if it's not, find somebody else who puts it there. It's one of the oldest cliches in football, but it's absolutely true. The best thing you can say about a long snapper is that you never hear his name. You never want to have to care about the long snapper. And I think you use a scholarship on a specialist like a long snapper so that because you believe you have someone good enough that you're not going to have to care about them at all for 4 years while they start for you. And that's why you put them on scholarship. And I think that's the intention here with Henry Cersei. All right, so 2 commitments last week. The other thing that happened last week, and we're going to talk about this from time to time. We're going to keep an eye on it because this is now, in addition to being Panther-Lair.com, covering all things Pitt sports, this is also now a Washington Wizards fan account. I've decided I'm going to be a Washington Wizards fan this year. I'm going to keep an eye on the Wizards and, lovable losers, cheering for the team that they win last year, like 15 games or something like that. We will be supporting the Washington Wizards in this house, and we'll be supporting the Washington Wizards on this show, obviously because of Bub Carrington getting drafted there, although they also have Justin Champagnie, which we are all strongly reminded of this week. And I'm bringing it up, of course, because the Summer League games started last week. Bub Carrington made his debut for the Wizards on Friday in a win over the Atlanta Hawks, and he was outstanding, 19, 9, and 8. All 3 of those numbers, points, rebounds, and assists, were all game highs. Shot 5 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 8 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Pretty strong performance, and followed it up with a pretty good game yesterday against the Rockets in a loss. He had 18, 4, and 5. Efficiency numbers went down a bit, 5 of 16 from the floor, 4 of 10 from 3, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. On the season, though, he's shooting 38.5%. Field goals, 44, or on the season, on the Summer League so far through 2 games, 44.4% from beyond the arc, and he's 75% on the free throw line. Just playing outstanding, averaging 18.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists per game through 2 games. When I recorded this last night, there were still games going on, so I didn't get to see updated Summer League stats after 2 games, but I'm going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that Bub Carrington's 18.5, 6.5, 6.5 stat line of points, rebounds, assists is the best overall stat line or top 5 overall stat line in the Summer League so far after 2 games. I think they play a total of 4 games, then they move on to a playoff. Games coming up on Tuesday against the Trailblazers at 8:30. That's on NBA TV. And then on Thursday, they play the Kings at 7 o'clock. That game is on ESPN. And, of course, there's also another Pitt angle to it as well with Justin Champagnie playing for the Wizards. And Champagnie's been pretty good, too. He had 18, 4, and 5 in the first game, 19, 7, and 1. In the second game, he's shooting 67% from the floor so far in the Summer League games, averaging, like Carrington, 18.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds. He's playing well. He's getting some of those assists from Bub Carrington. Some of Bub Carrington's assists are coming when Justin Champagnie makes a bucket. So Tuesday night at 8:30, Thursday night at 7 o'clock, you get a chance to watch these 2 guys, Bub Carrington and Justin Champagnie, play basketball. And, hey, that's fun to do, right? Look, we're always going to be keeping an eye on Blake Hinson with the Lakers. I keep going with Blakers, but the Blake show is probably better, but I'm going to stick with Blakers. But the reality is the Lakers are going to be a tough team for me to follow and support. First of all, it's the Lakers. I mean, what are you going to do? How are you going to be like a Lakers guy? But then they're on the West Coast. I mean, those games are hard to stay up for. So Wizards games, they should be watchable. They're closer. They're bad. And that makes it fun to watch. So this will be occasional updates on the Washington Wizards and Bub Carrington's progress. It's going to be fun to watch. I think I've been excited. I never had any doubts when he left Pitt and went into the draft. I didn't know where he would get drafted. I didn't know if he'd be a lottery pick. I thought he'd be a first round pick, but I didn't know if he would jump into the lottery. But I was sure he would get drafted. I was sure he would be a round 1 pick. And I was excited to see how he would do because I didn't think he made the wrong decision. I mean, I think you could always fine-tune your game and hone some points, hone some things as if you come back. But I didn't think he made the wrong decision. I thought he did, the best thing. And I think I'm not going to say that 2 games in the Summer League are proof that was right, but I expect him to be really good for the Wizards, and I expect it to be a lot of fun watching him. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm curious. I'd like to hear from you in the comments and on the message boards if you are also going to be taking more of an interest in the Wizards than maybe you would have in previous years. I know I am. I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting the kids all fired up. We're all going to be Wizards fans, so we'll have occasional Wizards updates here on the Morning Pit and on the live show. It'll be fun to do. So you don't want to miss any of that in addition to all the Pit talk, right? Like this video and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you won't miss any of our Pit video content here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We have daily Morning Pit videos. We have the weekly live show every Wednesday night, plus interviews, highlights, practice, all kinds of stuff. Press conferences, we have it here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, so make sure you tune in and you don't miss any of it. And then, of course, check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, and recruiting, you find it all at Panther-Lair.com and message boards to interact with hundreds and thousands of other Pitt fans. All day, every day, Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's good to be back. I'm glad we're here. We got a lot to talk about today, tomorrow, this week, the next few weeks leading into training camp. We'll have all kinds of football preview content, plus more recruiting updates, basketball stuff, whatever else comes to mind, whatever else is relevant to talk about related to Pitt. We'll be talking about it right here on the Morning Pit. So like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate it. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you had a great week last week. Enjoy your Monday. We'll catch up with you tomorrow on the Morning Pit right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.